Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making a quick card using some products from Waffle Flour. I am now determined to go through my stash and start using products that I might have set aside and never got around to using the products. So that's what we're doing today. We're in our stash and we're going to recreate this card. I love how this card came out and I want to recreate this maybe with a different sentiment. So, like I said, I'm using supplies I've had in my craft room. I've also made this little panel. We won't recreate this panel today, but I did want to show that because it is part of the stencil set that we're going to be using today. So creating in my craft room is a process for me, but I love working on things that I might have set aside and never had a chance to use and visiting them in later videos. So today I'm using the Waffle Flower Rose Background Stencil Duo. This is absolutely so pretty. So there's two stencils here. That's the leaf stencil I'm using now. That was the panel I showed you earlier was created just with this stencil, but I want to recreate that rose background. So I'm going to use both of the stencils today. So what's so great about the waffle flower stencils is that they have a little registration mark that helps you line up your card panel. So for my inks today, I'm using my Concord and Ninth inks in Sprout, Parsley. And for my pinks, I'm going to use Carnation and Sweet Pea. I thought these would be gorgeous colors to create a last minute Valentine's Day card. Now, with my inks today, I'm going to be using a smaller Altenew blending brush. Now, if you wanted to, you can use a larger blending brush to just do a sweep of color across this, but I really wanted to get into the nooks and crannies of this stencil. But again, if you want to make this super, super quick, you can totally use a larger blending brush for this. So I'm making sure to get down a good coat of this first color because I need to make sure that everything is covered before I go to my next color. So I'm finished with the sprout and I'm going to bring in the parsley. Now for the parsley, I am only going to add it to certain areas. I'm not going to go heavy handed with it on everything. I wanted to create some depth with this. And this is a great way to do that when you're stenciling is to use two colors and your second darkest color, you're just going to apply that sparingly around your stencil. Adding in this depth really does make the stencil pop a little bit more on your card. Now, since I'm finished with that green, let's go ahead and put that aside and I'm going to peel back this stencil. And you're going to see a gorgeous panel just with leaves. So you could leave it like this, like I showed you earlier in the video, or you can come in with the second layer, which happens to be the roses. Now, this is really, really easy to line up because each rose is going to kind of tuck into the leaves. So you'll be able to see that on your stencil. But remember, you have the registration marks as well, and that's going to also help you line up this second layer. I love these layering stencils. I think they are a fantastic addition to our crafting because it really does help you build up a background and it's super, super easy to do. So if you have not used layering stencils before, I suggest maybe you grab this one because it's only two layers, but it makes such a striking background. I love layering stencils for so many reasons, but the layering stencils are starting to become my absolute favorite. All right, we have down that first color, which was the carnation, and now I'm going to come back in with that sweet pea. Again, I'm just adding this color very sparingly, and I'm going to vary my pressure as well. So not each rose looks the same or has the same depth to it. And using these smaller blending brushes is also going to help me to achieve that look as well. So let me know, do you like layering stencils? I have become a huge fan of them because to me they work like a background stamp. And that's what I love about ones just like this that will fill up nicely on a card panel. Now that our ink blending is complete, I can go ahead and pull back this stencil and look at this gorgeous design we have. Remember, we only use two stencils on this and we have this gorgeous background. I'm going to remove my grip mat and set that aside. And I want to come in with the Postage Collage Die. This die is also from Waffle Flower, and it is absolutely so pretty. Now, they do have coordinating stamp sets that work with the Postage Collage Die, but I think this also looks gorgeous with this rose background. So I will line that up and make sure I have a rose in each one of those little squares. And I will use some tape to keep this in place. I mean, we did work, I shouldn't say very hard on this because it was super easy to do, but we don't want to wreck this at this point. We want this die to stay in place. Now, I think this rose background stencil would be perfect if you just want to layer it on top of a card without die cutting it. But I also think if you die cut it into a heart shape, it would also be so beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and take this off to my other desk to run this through my machine. Now this panel is completely done and it looks fantastic just like this, but I wanted to add a little bit of splatter. By adding the splatter, it's not adding any bulk to anything, but it's giving me a little bit of a texture feel to my panel. So using the Sprout ink, I'm just going to go ahead and tap that down on some packaging, and then I'll go ahead and spritz this with a little bit of water just to get it moving, and I'll grab a paintbrush. And this is just going to allow me to add a little bit of splatter to this card. Now, I do love my splat box. Can you believe it? I just got this splat box. It's been around for ages, but I love it because it's protecting the back side of this. I usually kind of do it in a box, but I really am a fan of this splat box now. Now, I am going to make sure that I go over every single area here, and I wanted to use the lighter of the shades. I am going to bring in that panel that I showed you guys earlier and go ahead and put some green splatter on that. Remember, I made this panel, but I'm not using it today. So I'll have a panel to use for another card a little bit later if I wanted to turn it into a birthday card or a celebration card or even a sympathy card. Anytime you have your stencils out, make more than one card. It will really allow your crafting time to stretch a little bit longer, and you also have panels for other occasions. Now I came in with the Carnation. No, I'm sorry, this is a sweet pea, I think. And I put that down on the packaging as well. And I'll add a little bit of water to this, and we'll go ahead and get that splatter. Now I'm not going to splatter that on the green panel. I'll remove that panel, and then I'll bring back in the rose. Again, this is a super easy way to add just a little bit of something, something to your card without adding any bulk. I know Kathy Zilski is fantastic when it comes to splattering. And after watching her with her splat box, I was like, yeah, I think I need that because I splatter a lot and it gets everywhere on my desk. So this has become a lifesaver for me. Now that we have our card panel done, look how pretty that is just with adding that little bit of splatter. I like how this turned out, but I do want to pair this with a little bit of black. Look how striking this card looks when you just add that little bit of banner of black around the card. Now, if you wanted a softer look with your roses, I would do like a cobblestone color or a light gray. That would kind of soften up the panel, but I really like using it with the black because it does make our roses kind of pop out a little bit. I'll go ahead and use some wet adhesive here, and I like using liquid adhesive or wet adhesive because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room when I'm placing anything down that I need to shift a little bit. So I'll line that up. And again, that liquid adhesive gives me just a couple seconds that I can move that panel around. And again, look how gorgeous that looks just with that black piece around it. We'll go ahead and set this aside because we need a sentiment. Now, for my sentiment, I am using a stamp set that I've had in my stash for a little while now. And this one is called Love Greeting Mix by Simon Says Stamp. I absolutely love this stamp set. I think I used it on one of my cards for the Valentine's Day card series. If you guys are interested in seeing a couple of cards I made for that series, I'll go ahead and link the playlist above and you guys can check that out. Now, for my sentiment, I am going to grab a smaller sentiment because I don't want my sentiment to take up too much real estate over that gorgeous background we did. So I love the Hey Love in this stamp set. I think it's so pretty. And what I also love about this stamp set is the mixture of fonts. I am a person who loves a beautiful font, and this stamp set has that. And to me, even though it seems like a Valentine's Day stamp set, you can use this throughout the year just to tell somebody how much you love them. Now, I did prime my stamp with my fingers because when we get our stamps, they have a little bit of a residue on there. And I just made sure to kind of wipe my fingers over the sentiment so I can get my ink to adhere a little bit better. And I am using VersaFine Nocturne ink today. And look how black that came out. I didn't even have to stamp this twice. Now, I do not have the matching dies to this. And you guys know I like me a good matching die. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this first because this ink stays wet a little bit longer. And I want to make sure I dry this back just a tad bit before I start fussy cutting this. Now, I'm not the best at fussy cutting. I can get it done when I have to get it done, but it is not my favorite thing to do. But because this sentiment was really, really small, I didn't have too much of an issue with it. And a tip that I've learned is if you keep your scissors in one place and actually move your paper, it makes the fussy cutting a little bit easier. So as you can see, I'm moving my paper instead of my scissors. And that does really help to get a almost even-ish border around your sentiment. All right, I don't think that looks too shabby. I think it's gonna be good enough for a card. So now we have our card panel here, and then we have that beautiful Hey Love. Now at this point, I'm just trying to figure out which orientation I want this card to go. And I think I'm gonna take it back and make it a horizontal card because I like that Hey Love right in that little sweet spot. Now for my card, I am using a side folding card, but I'm gonna turn the fold to the top. And this way my panel can lay horizontally across this. Again, I'll use a little bit of liquid glue to hold this in place. And what do you guys think? I really love this rose background. I think it would look so pretty if you did it in shades of orange, shades of yellow, shades of purple. I think it would be so pretty. So remember, layering stencils are so easy to work with. And look at the big bang we get on this card. Again, there are layering stencils that might not fill up an entire card panel. They might just do like a flower or something like that. But if you're new to layering stencils, I totally suggest you get one that creates a background. So you get a little bit of practice on how to layer those stencils up. Now, I didn't want to add too much dimension to this card, but I did want to pop up my sentiment. So I have some thin foam tape here, and I'm just going to put a couple of pieces on here just to have that lifted up off of the card panel. I thought if I just glued it down, it just would be a little bit too flat. But again, this is not adding a lot of dimension to the card. So I can go ahead and line that up right in that little sweet spot in the corner. And then we have another beautiful card using the rose background stencil duo from Waffle Flower. I did want to add a little bit more black to this, so I just grabbed my Hero Arts enamel dots and I used the smaller ones on here just to kind of sprinkle some of that black across the card because remember we had some of the green and some of the pink splatter, and I felt the need to kind of bring in that black. Again, just sprinkle it across the card panel. I'm not going to add a lot of these. I just want this to be like a finishing touch. I'll place the last one down here. And I think that's good enough. I think we have like a nice little triangle shape here, and that'll keep your eye moving across the card. All right, everybody. So we created that fabulous card that you saw in the beginning. Make sure to pick yourself up some layering stencils. They're fantastic. If you're looking for more content to watch, I've listed 2 videos here that you guys can check out. Have a fantastic day, everyone, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.